I'm doing it right now.
Awesome. I see that it's happening. Okay. Welcome everybody. Здравствуйте. Hello. Welcome back for day 2 of our writing workshop. So it's good to see everybody again. I hope that yesterday was fun. I had a lot of fun meeting all of you. And we're going to continue today. Today's session will be in some ways similar to yesterday's. We're still going to use the breakout rooms, and we'll still do a lot of talking and interaction, but we are going to focus on a different topic. So if you remember yesterday, we looked at essence objects. We kind of talked a little bit about prompts and finding your values. I'm just going to share our website here so that you can see what specifically we were looking at. And so here I've got brainstorming. This was session 1, right? We also talked about the College Essay Guys blog, which I said that you could go to if you wanted to. And I made all the homework kind of optional. But here, this is Ethan Sawyer's blog. Roshan has already given you access to his book, College Essay Essentials, but his blog is also great. There's actually a ton of stuff on here that we won't get to cover in the short time that we have together. But one of the things that I really said you could look at yesterday, if you wanted to learn more about what these essays could look like, was this section, 12 college essay examples that worked. And if you missed this, I was talking at the end, and probably it might have been confusing for some people, so I do apologize. But if you're looking for essays, there's 8 personal statement examples at the bottom here that are really, really good ones. And so this is just college essays. If you're looking for example essays, again, we're not going to take time to read all of these in class. We will look through some of them later. But this link, which I did share yesterday in our PowerPoint, but you might have missed, this is a great one. And so I'm going to go ahead and share this in the chat right now. But I don't want to have you reading these right now. Okay, this is just something to look at later. Somebody asked me if there's a new presentation for today. The answer is yes, but I am sneaky. I put it down here actually. So we need to move this stuff around. In fact, it's this one. Okay, so I'll just carry this up here. Look at that. It's like Dragon Ball Z. I'm like making this thing fly. It's actually not like Dragon Ball Z. I'm just really dorky. So here, hold on. Okay, there we go. And I can put that there. There we go. So this is the session 2. I guess I'll put that just to make it clear for us. All right, great. Yeah, and so I'm going to go ahead and get started with this now. We're going to start with a little bit of review of what we did last time. Okay, so give me just a second. I'm going to go ahead and share this. Okay, the do's and don'ts. There we go. Okay. So the first thing I want to say, I have to be very clear here. I love giving myself credit when I have accomplished or created something. I think it's important. But just as much or even more so, I like to give credit to others when they create something. So I did not make some of today's presentation. A lot of the work that went into this was actually created by an English language fellow, which is a position I used to hold in Kazakhstan. This was a fellow who worked at a university in Uganda and made a really great resource. And I first started doing this 2 years ago at the American Corner in Petropavlovsk. So if anyone here is from Petropavlovsk, that's one of the biggest sessions I've ever done. I had about 230 people in the same room, which was crazy. Anyway, I've used this many, many times since then. Okay, but we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of personal statement writing. I will put us into our breakout sessions today as well. And I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat box. So if you have any questions, you can ask. So I just want to review a little bit what we did yesterday, more questions to consider. Okay, so this is something that we didn't finish yesterday. I gave as something kind of as a take-home thought project, something that we could work on. And so one of the first things I'm going to do is put us in breakout rooms so we can actually talk about this. So yesterday we looked at our essence objects, and I know that some people met with Roshan later last night to talk a little bit more about these essence objects, and I've heard that that was very productive. But for all of us, if we remember, these are those objects that if we imagine a box, that we would put in that box that are so important to who we are that we would not be who we are without those things. Okay. And so these were the questions we asked yesterday. I'm going to put these in our chat in a moment. Excuse me. And I'm going to put us in breakout sessions to talk about these. Okay.
Ben, can you
Yeah,
ask students to be more active?
Sure.
I heard that some students, they do not talk when they're in breakout rooms. So it's important to be active and talk, actually.
Yeah.
But talk.
Oh, yeah. So that's a really good point. And thank you for that, Roshan. When there are 40 rooms, I can't check on everybody. So it's okay to talk in Russian if you're not so comfortable talking in English. For this stage, I'm okay with it because we're brainstorming. We're getting those ideas out. But you should talk. One of the goals with the breakout rooms is that it should not be as scary to talk with 3 people as it is to talk with 113 people, right? So if I put you in a smaller room, that should help, okay? And again, remember, there's no right answer here, okay? There aren't too many wrong answers. There are some wrong answers. If I say, what's your actual superpower, and you say, I can fly, I'm gonna have a lot of questions, right? You can't fly. But maybe there's something that you're very, very good at. You're good at understanding what people want, or you're very good at calming down people who are upset. What is it, right? Your superpower. And so I'm going to put these questions in our chat, and I'm going to check the chat because I see that we have 2 comments there. Great. Okay. So again, please remember, let's try talking. Okay. So give me just a second. I'm going to put those questions in our chat. Okay. There we go. And I'll be moving around. Don't be shy. And if I come into a room, or Roshan is a co-host, so she'll be able to move around too. We won't get to everybody. There's going to be a lot of rooms. But don't be shy. I don't want it to be a quiet room. If texting is comfortable for you, that's great. But don't be afraid to talk. Okay, that's a good thing too. All right, I'm going to put us in rooms now. Any questions before we get started? This is kind of a review or follow-up from yesterday. Great. Here we go. To find the right number of participants. Here we go. I'm going to make 30 rooms. That puts 3 or 4 people in each room. Okay. So just like we did yesterday, this might be somebody's first time, didn't make it yesterday, I don't know, but you're going to get an invitation to join a breakout room. That's like a smaller room within this discussion. So just accept that, okay? And then you can talk in that room. All right, there we go. I'll give you a few minutes. Okay, so if you're still in the room with me right now, I'm going to really encourage you, join the breakout session that I've given you, okay? If you have a question about that, you can write it in the chat. I'll try to help you. All right. Good. I'm glad. Hi, everybody. I hope that was enough time. It's hard for me to know if it's enough time or if it's too much time. And some people are away from their keyboard, and I know that because when I try to add people to breakout rooms, sometimes somebody just kind of stays for too long in the room with me. Okay, so somebody said we don't have enough time. We didn't have enough time. I'm going to try to give more. If you need more time for this, I would recommend kind of thinking about, in your free time at home, I would think about these questions more. I do have some more questions for us. So I'm going to go ahead and get back to our session here. Okay, here we go. But I am keeping an eye on chat. So if you have something you want to say, that's great. Okay, good. And I'm also, unfortunately, I should tell you, I cannot go into the breakout sessions very easily. And the reason for that is that I need to be in the main area because we have more students coming all the time. And so I can't really go in. So it's hard for me to know if we've had the right amount of time or not. Okay. So if something is wrong, you can just you can tell me during our other times, and I'll try to help. Okay. So great, good questions to consider, right? Now we also had this. Okay. And so if you're on a computer or if you're on your phone, you might want to just take a picture of this. This was another part of a homework assignment. We were looking at a list of values, things that we care about, things that are important to us. So there were all of these. We might know some of these words better than others. Okay. And then there were these as well. So it's actually a pretty long list. And the goal was to choose the top 10, the top 5, the top 3, and then the top value. And your top value might change from day to day. But what I wanted to do, and Roshan, stop me if you think this is a bad idea. I'm going to get us back into breakout rooms, okay? You don't need to give your top 10 list. I don't need that. But I think if you can share your top 5 values, your top 3 values, and maybe your top value for today, and see if the other people in your group, if they agree with you, if they don't agree, and see if you can actually say why those are the things that are the most important to you. Now, if you didn't do this work last night, this is going to be kind of a hard, even awkward activity for you. So I recommend, if you didn't do this last night, I'm not kicking you out or something, but I would recommend taking a picture of this screen so that you can look at this list in a group and actually talk about this together.
Maybe we can actually give them time.
Sure.
They read all the information right now.
Yeah, great.
Actually, they have these pictures. I send them on WhatsApp.
Okay.
But can we just give them 5 minutes? Or
5 minutes.
Seems maybe like 3 minutes.
Yeah, great.
They just choose their top 5, 1, and so on, and then they will go to breakout rooms.
Yeah. Great. I'm going to give you, so I think it's kind of a big task. I'll give you 6 minutes. Okay, so we'll take 6 minutes to choose your top 5 out of this list. So this list goes for 2 screens, right? This is what we shared yesterday. Your top 5, your top 3, and your top value. And you don't need to write why, but I want you to be able to talk in a group about why. Okay? This seems like a good time to play some music, so I'm going to do that. But if you have these pictures, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Okay? So that I can put on a little bit of music for us. All right. And I'll get some instrumental stuff, I think. think about 2 more minutes, guys. All right, I'm going to stop for a second. This doesn't mean we're done, but I want to know. Give me a little feedback. Do we need more time? Who needs more time? Don't be ashamed about that. I really want to know. Okay, I do have a couple people. Okay, I've got a couple people who need more time. I'm going to say 1 more minute. I'm going to give 1 more minute, okay? Just one. And if you don't get it all done, that's okay. Let's get as much as we can, but just 1 more minute for now, okay? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and stop that now. Welcome back, everybody. We're going with lo-fi old school hip hop beats today. Welcome back, everybody. I'm just going to put you in a room for a short period of time. Remember, I'm going to put this in the chat. List your top 5, top 3, and top value from these lists. And if you'd like, especially for that top value, well, for any of them, but especially for that top value, why don't you go ahead and give why, okay? So again, you don't have to write anything there, but you can just talk to each other. Why? Any language is okay, but again, like Roshan said before, your participation is very important. Your group is going to get more out of this if you do it. Please don't be away from your keyboard. I know some people just kind of turn on their computer and then walk away. That's not what we're here for, okay, guys? So here we go. I'm going to put us in breakout rooms. I'll give you a couple minutes for this, probably about 5 minutes, and then we're going to move into our new material for today, okay? Recreate the rooms. Here we go. So you're going to, again, you're going to get an invitation. Go ahead and join a room. All right. Hi, everybody. We got people coming back here. We're just going to wait a second.
Hi.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen while we're waiting. So we figured out at this point, or we're starting to figure out, our essence objects and our values. Now, why would we do that? Okay, well, your essence objects make you who you are, and your values say a lot about what you're hoping for the future, and what you maybe have as goals for your future. Okay, so I'm going to move now into talking generally about personal statements. We're going to get through some pretty useful, I think, material here. And then we're going to go into, with any extra time, discussion of what a good personal statement can look like and choosing the prompt that is right for you. Then tomorrow, we're actually going to talk about the writing of the personal statement. So today we're going to talk about, again, what a personal statement is. I've got a little activity here, some do's and don'ts. We'll look at a sample of a successful personal statement. If we don't have time for this today, it will be kind of a homework assignment. Okay, and then any questions you might have. So what is a personal statement? Well, we talked about this yesterday, but a personal statement is also known as a statement of purpose. It's also known as a motivation letter. Okay, it's also known as a letter of motivation. There are probably other names for it that I don't even know. But I usually call them personal statements. They're actually used for many, many different things, not just for getting into university, although that's what we're talking about. They're also good for getting grants, which is kind of money for different projects we might have, fellowships or internships. So we're working somewhere, probably not for money, but for a lot of experience. Scholarships, which are very important. And I hope that you'll talk with Roshan and other Education USA resources maybe later can point you towards some of those important scholarships that can help us to get money for our education. Also, this is the kind of letter that you can use later in life to write to get a job. So I've had to write letters very similar to the one that we're working on in this workshop to get jobs in the past. Another way to think of this is that a personal statement is a chance to sell yourself and to show what makes you unique beyond your transcripts or your CV. If you don't know what a CV is, I guess I'm talking about a resume. It's like your list of different accomplishments and achievements, your school history. And so those are very good things, but this is a way to show who you are beyond that. Now, when I say sell yourself, I don't mean that you put a price tag on yourself. You say, I'm exactly 4,500 tenge. No, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about showing your best side. Anybody who uses Instagram knows that when we take a picture on Instagram, we're not taking a picture of ourselves looking sweaty, looking gross, looking bad. We're finding the best angle we can for our picture. You can think of your essay as being the same thing. We're not lying, but we're showing the best side of ourselves that we can. Okay, so personal statements can answer a specific question, and we'll look at some prompts that ask for a specific response, or they can actually be general. But in every case, we're trying to answer the same basic question, which is this: what is special, unique? Unique means kind of one of a kind, only you, distinctive and or impressive about you or your life story. So one of the uncomfortable things that we need to consider when writing this essay is that as special as you are and as special as your story is, there are many, many students around the world who are applying for the same spots at the same universities you will. That's true if you apply at a top tier school, Ivy League famous school like Harvard, but it's also true if you apply for state universities, community colleges, anywhere you go, there's a lot of competition. And so we need to find a way to stand out. Okay, we need to find a way to make our name and our essay recognizable and somebody say, wow, this student is really sharing something. That doesn't mean you have to have the best grades. You don't have to have the best grades to tell a compelling and engaging story. Okay. Okay, I see that somebody says mute us. I don't hear anything, so I didn't even know about that. I will mute everybody. That's fine. Hopefully I fixed whatever that is. Sorry about that. I can only hear myself, so sorry about that. Hopefully I fixed it. Okay, great. All right. Let me know if there's a problem like that in the future. I do try to keep an eye on the chat. Let me see what this says. Sometimes the chat shows up for me. That's okay. Great. No problem. Okay, next. We're going to do an activity. And it says to make a check mark if the idea is good and an X if the idea is bad, but I'm not going to worry about that. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you some ideas, and these are maybe good ideas for a personal statement or maybe bad ideas. So I want you to look over these 5 things, okay? And I'm going to tell you the word exaggerate means to tell something more than it is. So if I've been teaching for 7 years, I say I've been teaching for 10 years or something like that, okay? So there's these 5 things. We might want to do them in a personal statement or we might not. I want you to take a moment for yourself, look at these 5 and decide, are they good ideas or bad ideas? I'm going to give you about 1 or 2 minutes to think about that, and then I'm going to put us back in breakout rooms to discuss with others. Make sure, if you think it's a good idea or if you think it's a bad idea, make sure you can explain to others in your group why.
Well, well,
All right. Okay, so what do we have to do? I see some questions. Yeah, sorry, some confusion. I want you to look at these. These are different ideas for a personal statement, for writing an essay for college. Is it a good idea to tell a story or is it a bad idea? Is it a good idea to read a final draft out loud or is it a bad idea? Okay. Is it a good idea to exaggerate accomplishments or a bad idea? All right. I'm going to put us back in rooms for just a few minutes. I'd like you to talk with others about this. Okay.
Вот это называется мастер своего дела. Даже по ходу дела будет объяснять.
Сейчас, секундочку, он придет.
А куда он ушел? Что он сказал?
Мне кажется, в чате, ребят, мы все работаем из дома, и бывают, да, какие-то вещи, которые происходят. Кто-то просто постучался к нему, и он пошел проверить, открыть дверь. Окей, не надо там писать кушать, да он там что-то это, хорошо?
All right, and I'm back. Sorry about that, everybody. So, what does it mean to show, don't tell? This is actually a really valuable thing that I want to kind of share with you. And I just want to make sure that this is clear for us. So if you say that something was great or that something was scary, and you're talking about a moment in your life, that only means so much. Scary to me might not be scary to you. It's better to kind of create that scene. What did you see? How did you feel? Scared? Not enough. Your knees were shaking. Okay. You really needed a glass of water because your throat was dry from the fear. Now we're getting a little bit more specific, right? So use descriptions to emphasize your point, okay? Stories capture and keep the reader's attention. And then instead of listing an experience, try describing a scene from that experience, okay? Great. So next one, reading your final draft out loud. So if you're not familiar with what a draft is, so I would be amazed if most of us can finish an essay by the end of these 6 days. But after you're finished, you're not actually ready to turn in your essay. You have to kind of write it again. We call that revision. And we're trying to fix things and work on organization and making sure that only our best or biggest ideas are actually included. Okay, and when we finally have something that we do want to turn into a university, that's called the final draft. Now, whether we want to read that out loud or not, I think we want to be careful about who we're reading out loud to. I'm not saying that you should go down the main street of your city and just read this out loud to strangers. That would be very strange. People are going to look at you like you're crazy. So we should be careful about that. That's not what I mean. But I think it is really good to read it out loud. Who should you read out loud to? Why don't you tell me in the chat? Who would be good to read out loud to?
You.
Let's see. Okay, yep, I see people saying this is a good idea. A friend, teacher, English teacher, all good ideas. Also read out loud to yourself. Read out loud to Roshan, cool idea too. But even to yourself is good, in a mirror, okay? Or just with your phone. You could actually record yourself. Why do we want to do this? If you've ever read anything out loud before, I've actually been on TV a number of times in Kazakhstan, and I also sometimes make extra money on the side by doing recordings for different advertisements and stuff like that, okay? I'd kind of voiceover work, if you want to call it that. One thing you notice when you do a lot of that kind of recording work is that when a word doesn't feel natural, or when something is not fitting in what we could call a flow, or is organized well, we slow down. We're not able to read it with that kind of fluency. It feels unnatural. And so when you're reading out loud, you're going to hear the parts of your essay that are not natural. And those are the parts that we want to change, because that is not a good representation of yourself. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Great, great. Okay, cool. Next one, exaggerating your accomplishments. Some people might have thought this was a good idea. I'm here to tell you it's not. So another word for exaggerating is kind of a nice word that means lying, okay? We really don't want to lie, all right? Anything that you make up or make yourself sound bigger than you are, I understand why we would want to do that. This is very competitive, right? But if you make yourself sound bigger than you actually are, they can find out. The school is not stupid. They can go through a number of different avenues and ways online to identify what you're saying that is true and what you're saying that you've maybe made up, okay? So you'll be asked for evidence of achievements. You might be asked in an interview to give more detail about something that you have lied about. It's really hard to continue a lie. If anybody has tried that before, we know how difficult that is, okay? And so that's one kind of exaggeration, but the other one is like this. You see this a lot of times with, oh, I see somebody said, can we exaggerate a little bit? So let me turn that question around to you. Why would you? Why would you exaggerate a little bit? To make yourself more impressive? Probably, right? That's the first reason I can think of. Maybe there's some other reason you would do it. But I just want to tell you that whatever it is that you've accomplished in your life, even if you feel like it's not much, that's impressive enough. It's not what you've accomplished, it's how you tell that story that matters, okay? So you as who you are is perfectly acceptable. You already are special for this university. You don't have to make yourself bigger or more than you already are. Okay? And I know that might just sound like some nice thing teachers say, but I mean that. Okay? Let's see what we've got. Okay, I claim that my height is 170, but it's actually 168. I understand that. You know, I like to tell people I'm still like early 30s, but I'm actually 35. Yeah, that is exaggerating. Anytime we try to make ourselves more than we actually are. But that's not the kind of exaggeration we'd probably do for the essay, right? So another thing we want to be careful with is making big claims that we're not going to be able to prove. Like to say I'm the best student you'll see all year. Or you're not going to find anybody who does this as well as me. You can't prove it, and it doesn't feel professional at all. So we don't want that. Being humble is good, okay? We want to be proud of our accomplishments and to acknowledge what we've done that's good, but we don't want to brag, okay? And we don't want to make big claims that we can't prove. All right, next one. This is always very controversial. All right, and I might even ask Roshan for some notes on this one. She might have something she wants to add. But humor usually doesn't go very well. Now, I know that there are some students who are naturally funny people or who naturally value their sense of humor. And I don't want to tell you to never use humor. I think it is okay to use humor sometimes. Diaz says it depends on your topic. I agree. I think that there are sometimes humor is okay. I had a student in Karaganda 2 years ago who was a brilliant chemistry student, right? And also a very funny person. And they made their essay full of jokes about chemistry that they had come up with. The jokes were actually funny, and they also had the advantage of showing the knowledge of chemistry that this student had. That worked, okay? But sometimes a joke doesn't work. Why would a joke not work? What is dangerous about a joke? Why is a joke dangerous to use? What could go wrong? Interpretation, different background. Yeah, right. You guys have the right answers. Okay? Maybe a joke that is funny to you, a teenager from Kazakhstan, is not funny to a middle American, middle-aged woman in United States, right? The background is very, very different. This could be about gender, could be about religion, politics, any kind of joke like that, not a good one, okay? Let's avoid that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's okay to have an essay that is not super serious. And in fact, if you want to see some examples of that, I would go back to that blog, Ethan Sawyer's blog. There's an example of a really funny one that would work potentially. But we want to be really careful with humor. And I think unless you are absolutely committed to it, you should avoid humor as much as you can. Okay? So, Roshan, is there anything I'm missing there? You feel like that's a pretty good answer, or?
Yeah, I find it a great answer.
So I can't hear Roshan, but I'm assuming because she only talked for a second that she said everything's fine. I can't hear her again. That's okay. Great. Okay, great. All right, moving on. I do want to answer. There's one question here. We should write without humor. Let's be safe and write without humor. Yeah. Okay. This one is also quite controversial with students. Famous quotes. So let's say you have a quote from one of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., okay? Or maybe you have a quote from Abai Kulumbayev. Or you have a quote from, it really could be from anybody, right? Well, we always think of these kind of classic legends. Maybe you have a quote from Scriptonite. I have no idea. You could have a quote from anybody, right? The problem with quotes, if it's Abai, Scriptonite, Martin Luther King, anybody, the problem is this. Admissions wants to hear your voice. They're not admitting Martin Luther King Jr. to college. They're not admitting Abai Kulumbayev to college. They're admitting you, right? So you only have limited space to write your essay. And so we want to be careful to only focus on your words, okay? If you do use a quote, what you absolutely don't want to do is just drop the quote at the beginning or drop the quote at the end, okay? If you have a personal quote, I'm guessing that means like from someone in your family or something like that. You could use dialogue in your essay. I think that that actually works quite well. But with the exception of a prompt that is asking about a quote that really fits, you know, I would not go that route. I would avoid that and just get into your ideas. Don't have idols be the idol. Okay. If it proves your point of view, so the reason we use quotes in the first point, Karina has a good question here, or a good idea that she raises. The reason quotes are valuable to people, that we love quotes, is because they often say something better than we could say it, right? I understand that. That's why people get it tattooed on them or get a poster or share it on Instagram or whatever it is, right? But again, this is your chance to share your thoughts. So if you do have a quote that is so important to you that you really can't live without it, or that it shaped who you are as a person, you absolutely need to build on that and talk about its significance to you. But again, if you can help it, I would focus more on you, okay? Yeah, okay? So if Martin Luther's quotes are similar to your voice, if it fits your statement, again, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. There's probably a supplemental or smaller essay that'll be asking something about a quote that is important to you. I would save it for there. I wouldn't put it in your main essay, okay? Unless it's absolutely necessary. All right, next, good idea, bad idea. Again, I'm gonna give you about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes to consider these, and then I'm gonna put you in breakout rooms again and we'll talk about these, okay? So, should you be creative and think outside the box? If you don't know that idiom, it means do something that is different from others. Should you write several drafts of an essay? Should you ask other people to read your personal statement? Should you rephrase or like say again what is on your application or your CV or resume? And should you include lists of your examples and experiences? I'm going to give you about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to think about these.
I think you should explain the word list. So
Yeah.
you just put like everything. All
Yeah.
your accomplishments.
So a list is where you maybe put, I care about the following things. And then you put a colon, which is those 2 dots, right? And then you say freedom, passion, education, commitment to my community, and love, or whatever. And you list off your values, okay? Or you say, I've done many Olympiads, for example, and then you make a list, one after the other, of all the Olympiads that you have done, okay? Is that a good thing to do or not a good thing? So again, I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Roshan, did that kind of answer that, or should I talk more about it?
I think it does.
Okay. I'm going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes to look at this, and then we're going to get back into groups and analyze this again, okay?
They're asking what it means to rephrase what's on your application. Ben can probably not hear me. Rephrase, то есть вот у вас вы написали все в accomplishments и взяли это, просто переделали, так сказать, в повествовательную форму и заново переписали.
All right. We're not going to do, I'm looking at my time and what else I want to cover today. I think we're not going to get into breakout rooms for this next section. We're just going to talk about it together, okay? I'll give you about 1-2 more minutes to look at this. All right, let's kind of move through these together. Just do a little bit of a survey of you right now. And then we'll talk about each one of these one by one. Who thinks being creative and thinking out the box is a good idea? Seen a lot of people saying it's a good idea. Okay, okay. What about the next one? So let's stop for a second. I see a lot of people saying the first 3 are good. Okay. Next one, writing several drafts. Who thinks that's a good idea? Okay, okay. Somebody says no. Okay, maybe some reasons to say yes, some to say no.
That's good.
Okay, okay. So a lot of these, there might be some disagreement. That's fine. Okay. What about the next one? Should we let other people read our personal statement? Okay, seeing a lot of different stuff. Bad, probably. Good, yes. Okay. Again, disagreement. I love disagreement. That's why we're here. Thank you for that. The next one, rephrase, which is like say again what's on your application or your CV. Some people say, no, don't do that. You get lots of, somebody says no in big capital letters. No! Very dramatic. I like it. Okay. Yeah, like that, like Diaz just did. That's good. Okay. Next one, should we include lists like we talked about? Okay, good. Seems like we have a lot of kind of differing opinions here, but there are sort of general feelings about each of these, right? So a lot of people thought that this was a good idea, and I agree. It's important to be creative and to think outside the box. Remember, we want to stand out. We want to be unique. This is a very competitive process, writing these essays. And so if we can do something that makes us stand out a little bit, that's a good thing. This is about not only the story that we tell and how we tell it, but the vocabulary that we use too. So admissions officers often read lots of essays that use the same words, like motivated, hardworking, and this kind of thing, okay? It's better to use adjectives that are more unique and truly show your character, like innovative and determined. I'm gonna get out of this for a second because I have something else I just realized I wanna share with you, okay? I'm doing what they call an audible. Here, just a second. I'm going to share this in our chat box. All right, so you can actually, I don't think I've ever shared this even with Roshan. So here, just a second. All right, I've shared a link to a picture that I'm going to actually share now. So when we're looking for creativity in our words, in our vocabulary, we can use something like this. This is a very helpful image here. This is called the feel wheel. So a lot of times students end up kind of limited in their words. We say something was bad, or that it made us happy, or angry, or disgusted, or fearful. Having more words can be a good thing. And so this is actually a really nice image that I got from a webinar that I attended back in April online. Okay, and so if I'm surprised, well, there's lots of different words we could use for surprise. Some of them are good, like being excited, and some of them are not so good, like being startled or alarmed. So if I'm energetic, that's actually better probably than being shocked, right? One of these has a positive meaning, one has a negative meaning. But here we have a lot of different words that we can actually use instead. And so I think this is a good resource for us. All right. Yeah. All right. So good. Yeah. Good stuff. Okay. Cool. So that was all I wanted to share. I think that's a good one for when we're trying to be creative with our words. Okay. But then aside from vocabulary, it's good to make yourself stand out by showing your personality alongside examples of your experiences. Again, show, don't tell. Okay. All right, next one. Writing several drafts. It is a good idea. I know some people said it's not a good idea, and maybe the reason is we're afraid we're going to lose one of our good ideas or that we won't have time. So writing more than one draft is a really good idea because a lot of times writing the first draft lets us see what ideas actually need to be placed in the highest importance and which ones we want to write the most about. So it really helps us with flow and organization. It helps us change sentences and paragraphs, and it helps us to work on word length so that it's not too short and it's not too long. Part of this is one of the big points I want to make, I guess. Part of this is that we should not wait until the day before an essay is due to write the essay. I know that this is very common. I have done it myself, okay? It doesn't work very well. And Roshan, who will probably receive your essay, is not going to appreciate it if she gets 35 essays 3 hours before a deadline. That doesn't allow her to actually do her job as well as she would like to. And so writing a draft, after that, if you can't decide which draft to use, this is a great time to go to a trusted friend or an advisor. It could be another student. You could actually buy another student pizza, let's say, or a donor or donor kebab or something like that, and say, hey, can you read this over and tell me what you think? You can share with each other. And if you're doing this online, because we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, I'm aware of that, you could use something like Google Docs and actually share a document together. Okay? Yeah, right. Is it better? It's better to start one and improve it until it becomes perfect. Can be. It's good to stick with a story that you like, and then kind of work with that and say, how can I build around this object or this value to make that story? But anyway, writing the drafts several times is pretty much always a good idea. Okay. Next one. With that, I think this is pretty clear after what we just said. It's really good to have other people read a personal statement. So asking other people to read a statement, make sure that people are able to understand the main ideas that you're trying to convey or share. If somebody reads your essay and they don't know what it is that you're trying to say, then that's obviously something that we need to work on, right? If there's something that's confusing or unclear, that's something that we need to work on. Yeah, also reading other people's personal statements. So not just having our statement read, but reading other people's personal statements is really good because it shows us maybe there's some other idea that somebody has and we really like it. I don't mean that you should steal someone else's story. That's not what I'm talking about. But maybe somebody has an approach to their essay that you think is very interesting and you think, oh, you know, that reminds me of something I could do, okay? Maybe somebody is structuring their essay in an interesting way that actually gives us some ideas. Or maybe somebody's doing something that we really don't like, and then we realize that we're doing it too. So it's a way to wake up and kind of realize that, okay? So don't be shy. And actually with that, don't write anything in your personal statement that you're not comfortable sharing. Okay, some people say, oh, I'm writing an essay, but I don't want anyone to read this. Well, if you don't want anyone to read this, why are you sharing it with a stranger who you've never met in an admissions department halfway across the world? I think any personal statement that we are ready to submit should be something that we are comfortable sharing. That doesn't have to mean that it's the most comfortable topic for us, but it shouldn't be something that we want to keep completely secret from the world. Okay? All right. Any questions so far? I'm trying to keep up with the chat. It's really going fast. I don't know. Okay. Great. Next. Don't repeat what's on your application. So it's okay to use some of the ideas. Let's say you're talking about your accomplishments, and I've worked with a lot of students who have done, Olympiads or something. Maybe one of your Olympiad achievements is one that you want to tell a story about. That's fine. But what you don't want to do is just repeat exactly what you already said in your application. This is a chance to go beyond that, to get into your story, okay? To describe an experience and to give clear and specific examples of your experience, okay? And so I also want to say we shouldn't include lists. And now I'm going to ask you why not. I didn't actually put an answer here. I'm interested in what you think. What's wrong with a list?
Maganda turun ba?
All right. You seem to have maybe a crying baby or something.
Fuck.
That's okay. All right.
Түү киши сен шүлдегін из-за этого біз қайттық қой. Аттақ тағы ойнаушық. Су үшін давай біз өзіміздің су алып аламыз. Сен шүлдегін де ішесің.
Kind of challenging for some reason. All right. Okay, so what do we think? Don't include lists. Why should we not include lists? So there's a lot in the chat, but none of this is answered. Somebody says it's too boring. Lists don't show our personality. It could be a waste of words. These are all kind of good ideas. So the reason we don't want to include lists is because we're trying to get to the most important things. So I want you to imagine for a second your favorite painting or your favorite picture, right? If you put that picture on a wall by itself, all the attention goes to that picture, right? It becomes very important on the wall. But if you put 40 different things next to it on the wall, suddenly it becomes much less important, your picture, okay? Suddenly the thing that you really value becomes less important because there are many, many other things already there, okay? So it's better to focus on the 2 or 3 things that are the most important in your essay instead of making a big list of things, okay? So a list would be where you're trying to say as much as you possibly can and share maybe like 20 of your best accomplishments instead of telling the specific story of like 3 of them, right? Okay. Any questions about that? You can type in the chat about it. Great, great, cool. All right, next, good idea or bad idea. I'm gonna give you a couple minutes on this one, all right? This is the second to last one. Great, great, good, good, I hope so. If there are any questions, you're welcome to email me later or ask Roshan. And so here, good idea or bad idea, we've got 5. Make sure that you use the word passion. Is it a good idea or a bad idea? I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to think about this, so don't say the answer now, okay? Should we use common words and phrases like cliches? A cliche is something that is very well known. So like, I give 110%. People say that sometimes. Or a long time ago, or once upon a time, something like that, right? Should you mention your weaknesses too, not just your strengths, okay? Okay, Shirin says she can't hear me. Can other people hear me? Okay, I think my audio is working, yeah. Shirin, if you can't hear me, I'll type this because she can't hear me saying this. Here we go. Okay, yeah, should you mention your weaknesses too? Think about that. Should we pay careful attention to the question or prompt that we're writing about? And should we include as much information as possible Again, I'm going to give you about 2 or 3 minutes to discuss this, okay? Two or 3 minutes. Sorry, just think about it for yourself first, okay? Oh, sorry. Well, that spoils that one for you. Yeah. I'd say about 1 more minute, okay? All right. I think we could probably take a little more time, but I want to move on here because I still have some stuff to cover, and we've got about 20 minutes here. So make sure that you use the word passion. Who thinks, yeah, we got to use the word passion? Does anyone think that's a good idea? Probably some people do. Okay, I've got someone raise their hand. Somebody said, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, somebody said, no, don't do it. No, bad, but no. Okay, so we have kind of differing ideas there. That's fine. What about common words and phrases like cliches? We'll look at some examples of cliches in a moment. People are saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, just don't do it. Okay, okay, cool. Should we mention weaknesses? Mentioning weaknesses. 50-50, yes, no. This is always like the most controversial one. It's usually like half the room. That's kind of what I'm seeing here too. Should we pay careful attention to the question or prompt? You guys are awesome at this chat. I get lots of answers quickly. Okay, cool. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, should we include as much information as possible? Yes, no, okay, a little bit controversial there. A lot of people are saying no. Okay, so we're gonna get through this together. So the first thing is no, don't use the word passion too much, okay? Passion or passionate, what does it mean? What does it mean to be passionate about something? What's it mean? Desire, to love something, to care about something. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's what passionate means. So remember what we said, show, don't tell. So if you're passionate about something, instead of saying I'm passionate about it, can you describe it? Let's say you're passionate about engineering, okay? You spend a lot of time reading about engineering. Instead of saying I'm passionate about engineering, why don't you describe yourself laying on the floor of your bedroom with books of engineering pictures and diagrams all around you, even when your mom is telling you it's time to come eat dinner, okay? Creating or describing a scene like that is going to be much better in terms of showing your passion than using the word passion. This is one of the most overused words and connections. One of the most overused words and ideas, I guess, that is often seen in these personal statements, okay? And so really avoid that. Another word that I see way too often, and I'm gonna write it here, but I don't mean that you should use it, okay? This is something especially that I see from Central Asian students. Nowadays we do this. Nowadays that. Nowadays, but da 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 da. Okay. I don't hate the word nowadays. It's not a bad word, but it is way overused in Kazakhstan. I think you guys had some teacher back in the Soviet days, maybe, who came from the West and decided that he was going to make nowadays like a really popular word in Kazakhstan. It's not a good one. Right. We could use a word like meanwhile. What's another way to say nowadays? What are some other words we could use to say nowadays? Currently. What else? Contemporarily, yeah, or contemporary. Contemporarily would be the adverb. That might be a better one. Today, now, in modern times, although that gets a little bit close to a cliche, right? So yeah, some good ones. Good. Better, okay? Great. Next one, we don't want to use common words and phrases. This is connected to the thing about passion as well. Avoid phrases that are cliche. You know something is a cliche because it's something that you've heard many, many times. So this is something like from a young age, since I was a child, I've always been fascinated by. I have a thirst for knowledge. Okay, everybody has a thirst for knowledge. That doesn't mean much, right? The world we live in today. So again, remember, we're trying to be unique here. So if it's something that has been shown or seen many, many times, it's something that we want to avoid. Okay, good. Here's another thing we really want to avoid. I absolutely hate this kind of essay, and I can always tell when it's going to be this kind of essay. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to sound not angry here, but I see this essay too much, and I have some like post-traumatic stress about it, I think. If you start an essay and you say something like, the boy was scared, the boy didn't know what was happening, the boy didn't know what to do next, but then the boy got up and the boy kept trying. And then you end the essay with something like this. And by the way, if you were wondering, that little boy was me. Everybody reading the essay knew from the first sentence that the little boy was you. Okay? That is not surprising to anybody. It is super cliche. It is way overdone. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, they'll read it, but they're going to know from the first sentence that you're the little boy, okay, or the little girl. Don't do it. Here's another thing I don't want you to do. I don't want you to write a story or an essay or something like that and end it with the last paragraph or the last sentence being like, but then it was all a dream. I woke up, okay? How many times have you watched a TV show where that's how it ends? It's terrible. We all hate it, okay? Don't do that. Don't do that. Sorry, I'm getting too mad. But avoid those things, okay? This is what happens when I have too much coffee, right? All right, next one. Mentioning weaknesses. This is controversial, and I actually disagree with this slide a little bit. Remember, this was a woman who was working in Uganda who shared this. This is the one slide in her presentation that I kind of disagree with, okay? So certainly it can be good to avoid weaknesses. We want to focus on your strengths. We want to focus on what you're good at. You don't want to take time in your essay to say, you know, I am really good at English, but I'm actually very bad at math, so I'm sorry about that. I'm going to be bad in your math classes, but please take me anyway because my English is good. Don't do that, okay? We're not focusing on your weakness. It's better to focus on your strengths. However, if you have a past weakness, let's say you were very shy, like I told you I was very shy before, and then because of challenges in your life, you were forced to overcome that and you became stronger, that's an okay thing to write about. That might even be a good essay. So it's okay to talk about weaknesses if you can turn them into strengths, okay? If you can show how your weakness got turned into a strength, that's a good thing, okay? Yeah, that shows, that kind of humanizes you. It makes you more of a person to somebody, and I think that's okay. So I think you can mention weaknesses, but it's more that we have to be careful about how we mention them. We don't want to just drop it in there and then do nothing with it. If you're going to mention a weakness, make that part of your story. Turn that into your strength, okay? Questions so far? We good? Okay. Next one, we absolutely want to pay careful attention to the question and prompt, okay? So you have to answer the question thoroughly, okay? Any question, and if you are responding to several different prompts, you want to make each one a little bit different. This is especially true if you're writing essays from multiple universities. So if you're doing the Common App, you don't really need to worry about this. But sometimes colleges want their own essay. You don't want to write the same exact essay that you did for MIT for the University of Iowa. They're very different programs, and it would be better to get specific about the professors or faculty or programs that you're interested in at both schools. Okay, so yeah, we want to be really careful. All right, next one. Don't include as much information as possible. I think this should be pretty clear now, because this goes back to that thing we talked about with avoiding lists, right? Sometimes we want to put as much information as we can into one page, but that doesn't actually make the essay very memorable. It's much better to focus on one theme or a few specific highlights, and then use clear, specific, and interesting examples or stories to support those themes or highlights, okay? Right. Next. This is the last group of 5. So again, I'm going to give you about 3 minutes, okay? A couple words that might be confusing here, where it says vary your vocabulary. Vary means like mix or change, okay? And concrete, when it says choose concrete and specific examples, concrete means kind of tangible, which means that I should be able to close my eyes and picture it. We'll talk more about that one tomorrow. So again, I'm going to give, I know some people are very quick with this, but I do want to make sure everybody has a chance to think for themselves. So if you haven't decided yet, don't look at the chat. Don't look at the answers people are giving. Okay? I'll give you about 2 minutes here to look at these. Okay, some people are saying it's time to start. I agree, I'm fine with that. Who thinks we should use all the space or word count provided? People think that's a good idea? All right, kind of a mix, but it seems like most people are saying yes, but I do have some people saying no, right? Should we start most sentences with I? Some people think we should start no sentences with I, right? I've heard that before. Should we write to impress by using big words? Okay, should we change our vocabulary and word choice? Again, I'm getting kind of a mix on these. Some people are saying yes, and some people are saying no. Some people are saying it might depend, right? Should we choose concrete and specific examples? Okay, cool. Lots of different answers here. Okay, let's go ahead and start here. I know some people said that this was not a good idea, but actually, I know it seems like a page and a half of writing might be kind of long. For an essay that's going to determine if you can get into a university for the next 4 years, halfway across the world, it's a very small document. So we do want to use all the word count provided. It's really not that long. And so we want to use as much as we can. And if your essay is too short, it's time to ask yourself some questions. Can you make one of your examples expanded? Okay. Could you give more detail? Could you talk about the impact of that example in your life or what happened after? Okay. Then if you find that you have too many words, Sometimes people think this is rude. I don't mean this in a rude way, but I think it's time to go back to your, go back into your essay and ask these questions. Say, okay, so what? All right, if I wrote this, I wrote this, I wrote this, I'm talking about biotechnology and my passion for biotechnology, and suddenly I have this paragraph about how I'm good at swimming. Well, I need to look at that and say, well, so what? Does that fit? And if it doesn't, can I make it fit? And if I can't make it fit, does it need to be here? Okay. Right. Next one. Don't start most sentences with I. Now, I know some people think we shouldn't start any sentences with I. I disagree with that. As an example, I think that it's a personal statement. It's about you, right? So you can definitely start sentences with I. There's no problem starting some sentences with I. However, starting every sentence with I can make it seem like your entire personal statement is just a big list. I did this, I studied here, I've always wanted to go there. And so we don't want to repeat the structure of our sentences ever, whether it's the word I or anything else, okay? It's better to vary or to change our sentence structure and vocabulary to make sure that our essay is interesting and memorable. Okay. Next. It is really challenging to stop the urge to do this, but sometimes we go to a thesaurus and we look for the longest words we can. We feel like if we don't have enough academic words, the university won't be interested in us. However, it's actually quite ironic. A lot of times the essays with the really big words are the ones that are saying the least. And so that's not what impresses a university, believe it or not. I'm telling you the truth. What really, I don't mean that, you know, if there are certain words that are important to what you're talking about and they happen to be bigger words, that you should avoid them. Of course, you should use them. If you're talking about, as an example, photosynthesis, you should use the word photosynthesis. You don't need to come up with some other word to describe it, right? Sometimes the long word is the right word. But that's not to say that we should always look for the longest word we can. Okay, it's much better to be able to tell the compelling story or the good story. So what we really care about is structure, organization, and flow. Okay, we'll be talking more about those in about 2 days when we talk about how to write transitions. Okay, with that, it is really important that we vary or change our vocabulary and word choice. You don't want to be using the same word over and over and over again in an essay. Okay. Same thing with phrases. Okay. Same thing with voice. If you're using active voice every time, which is like, I kicked the ball. I went here, I did that. And so every sentence is starting with you or with the subject. Or you're doing everything in passive voice, which is like the ball was kicked by me, where you have the object first. We want to change those voices too. Okay. So even though we don't want to always use the biggest words, we also don't want to avoid using synonyms. It's good to have different words to express the same thing. So we could use a thesaurus, which is a book of synonyms. Okay. We have one of those on our website. So instead of using the word teacher every time, we could look for other words for teacher: educator, advisor, mentor, and there are probably others too. Lastly, it's really good to be able to choose concrete and specific examples. These are those real stories, and this is what we're going to really focus on tomorrow when we start talking about descriptive writing. Okay, so real stories that you share in an essay are what make you truly unique. This is where your essence objects and your values become so important. Yesterday wasn't just a fun day. I hope we did have fun, but it was kind of building on this. Okay, if you think through your life, all those different objects, we want to choose the ones that represent, highlight, or support your story. Okay, so 2 homework assignments. The first one is this. I would like you, over the next day, so during our session tomorrow, I want you to have this ready. Think of 3 things that we should do and 3 things we should not do that you can share with your group. These are in addition to what we've already looked at. If you can only think of one or two, that's okay, but try for three of each. And we'll share these with a group tomorrow. Additional things that we should do and should not do. Okay? Also, I'm going to share with you, this is actually on our page here, a personal statement. And I want you to read this personal statement because we are going to talk about it tomorrow. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you now. Give me just a second. I'm going to find this. Here. Okay. So give me a second here. I see. I've gotten rid of it. Sorry about that. It's here. So I'll put this, it's in our presentation. And I'm going to recommend that we look through this together. Okay. So you can look at this tonight. This is the personal statement. It's an essay about dad. So it slides 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39. It's a 565-word essay. And I want you to read over this tonight, okay? So this is going to be what we look at tonight, all right? Great. And so read through that essay. The personal statement doesn't necessarily have to have a connection to your major. I see that's a good question there, and I want to answer that right now. It's actually okay for your personal statement to be more about your values and the qualities that are important to you. It's quite possible that you don't even know what you want to major in. Actually, that's okay, all right? So again, 2 things for homework, okay? Number 1, I want you to read the personal statement example in today's PowerPoint. I've just written that here. And number 2, I would like you to come up with 3 additional things to do and to avoid in personal statement writing. That takes us pretty much exactly to the end of today's class. I'm going to give it back to Roshan for a second if you have anything to say, kind of parting notes for these guys. Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow.
I have nothing to add. I just want students to know that you should do homeworks, because like even today we could actually do everything faster and have more breakout rooms if you actually did the homework.
It's true. We're going to get, and again, I am a teacher, but this is not a class that I'm teaching exactly, which is to say that I'm not giving grades or anything. I can't force you to do this stuff, but it's just like going to the gym or playing an instrument or anything else. You get out what you put in, right? So the more work you put in, the more you're going to get out of it, okay? So I see a lot of thank yous here. Guys, thank you to all of you too. The presentation and everything is on our site. Good luck. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. I'm going to go and eat some lunch. Okay, bye everybody.
Just end the meeting.
Yep, I'll end the whole meeting. Bye guys.
Okay.